Hey guys, Victor here, coming at you with another deck profile, and for today's video we're going to be doing an updated Dark World deck. Now this did actually receive support in the new set Supreme Darkness in the form of a Baoku, as seen here, as it basically allows us to have like another brand new end board type of monster, since a Bao, in order to summon it, requires Fiend monsters, and the Dark World monsters just happen to be Fiends, so they mesh together pretty well, and then both effects are actually pretty advantageous to us in the you can discard a card during the main phase, then you can either pop a card or you can bring back a dark or light monster from your graveyard. However, this does discard for cost, so it will not trigger your Dark World monster, so you just have to be aware of that. But we'll get more to that when we actually get to the extra deck portion of the video. For now, we're still doing the intro. So I'm going to be real with you. If you want to play Dark World, you are going to struggle, just because the two best decks right now are Malice and Raziel. With Raziel making Dweller the moment they know that you're on a graveyard deck, and then Malice has the option to just Dimension Shifter you, which are both auto losses, and then not to mention Bestials are constantly seeing play everywhere, and as if that wasn't already bad enough, pretty much every single deck that you're going to go up against does play Artifact Lancia, and that card, much like Shifter, just kind of demolishes the deck, right? As it means you can't take advantage of your Genta, you can't take your Genta's effect to come back. The Gates of Dark World is pretty much useless. If you happen to play Allure of Darkness, and if they shotgun the Lancia, Allure is dead. But yeah, if you want to play Dark World right now, it's not impossible, but it is not going to be easy by any stretch of the imagination. So with that out of the way, let's finally jump into it. As always, we're going to be starting off with the monster lineup first, and we're of course going to be playing 3 Genta Gateman of Dark World. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. This is by far one of the best, if not the best starter in the entire deck, as you just discard it, and then it gives you access to gates, and then because of gates, you're going to have free fodder to banish, so you get another discard and then a free draw, and then if you have the face-up gates, or just any Dark World card, Genta will in turn be able to special summon itself back, and from there, you can then proceed to use it as like Exceed fodder or Link fodder, whatever. This card, it's so good, you have to play 3 of it. Then to go with our 3 Gentas, we're playing 3 Snoww, Unlight of Dark World. And for this one, if it's discarded, you get to search any Dark World card. Really straightforward stuff, nothing too crazy. And then for the final 3 of Dark World monster, we're playing 3 Reign-beaux Overking of Dark World. So this is one of those cards that I'm never really sure if I want to play 3 or 2. The only thing that I'm certain about when it comes to Reign-beaux is that no matter what ratio I'm playing, someone is going to tell me why I'm wrong in the comments. So, let me have it. I know you guys are waiting, just chomping at the bit. But for now, I decided to go with 3 Reign-beaux Overking of Dark World. And when this one is discarded, it searches out any level 5 or higher Dark World monster from your deck to your hand. So it can add either like the Sillva, which we are playing, or the original grapha. It cannot add itself, so just be a little bit aware, but it's perfectly fine because we've 100% value the other cards way more than being able to search out another king or another copy of Reign-beaux, right? And then much like the original grapha, this card can also bounce back face-up Dark World monsters to your hand to special summon itself, but they have to be level 7 or lower, as opposed to grapha, which can just pretty much bounce whatever, except itself. But yeah, 3 Reign-beaux, perfectly fine. And then to go with our 3 Reign-beaux, we're playing 2 of the OG grapha, Dragon Lord of Dark World. When this card is discarded, it pops a card, but that effect really doesn't matter. The main benefit from grapha is that, much like Reign-beaux, it's able to bounce back Dark World cards to your hand, so you're basically just able to replenish your resources, increase your hand size, and then provide yourself with even more fodder to link or link or exceed summon with. But yeah, 2 grapha, perfectly fine. I never really feel like you need the 3rd one, but if you're playing 1, it gets a little bit too risky, because then you do open up yourself to basically just getting locked out of being able to summon out the fusion grapha, right? As you will be hit by like a Bestial at some point, and this is actually probably one of the better cards that a Bestial can hit, just because it does stop so much of your grind game. But yeah, 2 grapha, and then finally for the other 2 we're playing 2 Sillva, Warlord of Dark World. We're still going for the hand loop. I feel like if you're not going for the hand loop with this deck, you might as well just not be playing it at all, especially because while this deck is able to flood the board easily in order to play like a Link spam deck, there are so many other decks that do the exact same thing that it's kind of pointless, right? If you're playing a deck like Dark World, you should be doing it with the intention of taking advantage of the most degenerate possible strategy. And when it comes to Dark World, the most degenerate strategy is of course hand looping your opponent and then making them start with no cards while you have a full field, and no matter what they top deck, you're basically going to win no matter what. But I know that's not everyone's thing, but it's just my personal philosophy, right? If you're playing a deck, you should be able to, or you should be striving to achieve the most degenerate possible outcome with it. And that's why I'm playing 2 Sillvas. And then for the final Dark World monster, just the 1 ceruli. If it gets hit by a bestial, it's not the end of the world, just because we do play other cards that allow us to discard and activate Sillva's effect. But yeah, it's perfectly fine at 1. You don't really want to play too many, because then you will at some point like brick on it. But yeah, at this it's perfectly fine. And the cool thing about like ceruli, right, cool for you anyways, is that it triggers all your secondary Dark World effects, right, which is why we're able to discard Sillva and then loop 2 cards, or even something like Reign-beaux, right, or Snoww. They all have additional effects like special summon monsters from like a certain point. And sometimes it does come up, not always, but sometimes. And that's it for the Dark World portion. And then for the danger portion, because it wouldn't be a modern Dark World deck without dangers, we're playing 2 danger Nessie, 2 danger Tsuchinoko, 2 danger Jackalope, and then 1 danger Mothman. So when it comes to the danger monsters, I basically only wanted to play the versions or the cards that are guaranteed to achieve some goal, right? So that's why Mothman, no matter what, it's either summoning a body or discarding a card and drawing you a card. Tsuchinoko 100% provides you with a body every single time, which is fantastic for link plays, and the same can be applied to Jackalope, where it's going to be able to summon a body no matter what. And then as for danger Nessie, while it's my least favorite of the dangers, if it does end up being discarded, you're able to search your deck for any of the other dangers. We don't play Bigfoot just because this is a going first deck, right? And Bigfoot doesn't really matter all that much. There are certain times where you would want to play it, for example, with like the Coach King Giantrainer line, so you have an easier time getting to like a level 8 for an easier rank 8 play, but it's not really required. And then Chupacabra, while it's fine, it does require you to have a danger in the monster, or it does require you to have a danger monster in the graveyard already, which just isn't always going to be the case. So that's why I settled on these 7 specifically, just because it is these are the ones that are more likely going to be able to get their effects off guaranteed no matter what. But yeah, that's it for that. And then for the supplementary engine, we're playing 3 Gen the Diamond Tiger this time. So this is basically your second copy of ceruli, as during the main phase you can special summon a Ken from your hand or deck, and then when you summon Ken, you get to draw 2 cards, and then you're going to be able to discard 1. And by you, I mean like the person that owns the card, like physically owns the card, not the player that currently has it on the field, right? Because what you do is you give Ken to your opponent, it activates, and then it forces you to draw 2 and then discard 1. So essentially it's another copy of ceruli, and that's always going to be beneficial for us. Even if like we hard draw, right, it doesn't matter, because Gen is still able to summon it from the hand. And then when it comes to Gen, it's also just like a phenomenal card at helping you bait out hand traps, especially cards like Valor, Imperm, or whatever, which your opponent is more than likely going to have at some point, right? Yeah, being able to bait those cards to ensure that our Dark World cards actually resolve is always going to be invaluable. And then for the final monster, I opted to finally try out Zalamander Catalyzer again, as it's basically just like another extender. You know, you just reveal it, discard a fiend, and then special summon it. So if for whatever reason you just need something to help you discard and provide a body on the field, Catalyzer is your guy. And then it also happens to be a fiend monster, right? So, you know, synergy. And with that, that's the monster lineup, and now we can finally move on to the spell and trap portion. Now that we're on the spell and trap lineup, we're of course going to be playing 3 The Gates of Dark World. This card, it just does everything for the deck, right? And it's one of those cards that you pretty much want to have access to all the time. And I've never really understood the thought of people saying that this card bricks, because like, I guess, yeah, if you don't draw any of your Dark World cards, you can't use it. But I mean, if you don't draw any of your Dark World cards, you're not playing the game regardless. So you'd much rather have 3 of quite literally the best consistency card in the deck, right? As it discards your Dark Worlds, it allows you to banish Genta to get the free fodder, it allows you to draw a card, like it just does everything. But much like with Reign-beaux, I'm sure you guys will let me know why I'm wrong down below. So yeah, feel free to do that. But yeah, 3 gates, and then for the only other 3 of in the deck when it comes to spells, we're playing 3 Upstart Goblins. The 1000 life point gain is negligible, as we quite literally just put out 1,000,000 damage every single turn anyways, and they're not surviving even if they're at 12k, or I guess 11k would be the appropriate number after 3 upstarts resolve. But yeah, we already put out too much damage, so we're just gladly taking that trade-off to draw 1 card, just to ensure that we can actually win the game a lot more easily, as playing a 37 card deck is always going to be better than playing a 40 card deck. And then for the 2 ofs, just 1 card that we're playing at 2, being 2 Allure of Darkness. So typically you'd see me play this at 3, but I wanted to make space for like other cards, more specifically the 3rd Gen or the Zalamander Catalyzer. Not to mention Allure of Darkness, while I still think it's really good and we do play like a lot of darks to be able to take advantage of it, It is a lot weaker because of the card Artifact Lancia existing, especially for games 2 and 3. So you don't really want to rely on this one too much, especially because we're essentially just always going to be citing these out, right? As the nature with Artifact Lancia in a lot of situations is that your opponent is going to shotgun it, and then because of that, this card is just like clogging your hand, not doing anything. So yeah, I'd rather max out on something like Upstart Goblin than Allure because it's guaranteed to do something every single time. Then that's it for the 2-ofs, and then for the 1-ofs, we're playing the 1 Dark World Accession to be able to fusion summon the Fusion Grapha, the 1 Called by the Grave to maybe stop Dimension Shifter or Artifact Lancia when it gets dropped on us. We're playing the 1 Triple Tactics Thrust, which in turn allows us to search our normal spells, being the 1 Triple Tactics Talent, the 1 Dark Corridor, and the 1 Card Destruction. And with that, that's it for the spells. We don't play any traps, but like I said earlier, this is going to be 40 cards exactly. You can't make me play more. I refuse. But yeah, with that, that's the main deck out of the way, and now we can finally move on to the extra deck. Now for the extra deck, we're going to be starting off with the Exceed monsters first, and the first one that we're going to be talking about is number 41, Basgooska the Terribly Tired Tapir. This is literally just in here for when you get hand trapped to oblivion and you just need to make something to try and survive another turn. It almost never works, but you gotta have it in here anyways just in case. Then to go with our number 41, we're playing number 60, Dugares the Timeless. Now this card is absolutely insane for what it offers us, right? So we draw 2, then discard a card, so that's always going to be beneficial in a deck like Dark World. Or if we already have a stacked hand, this can also serve as like a reborn for any of our monsters in the graveyard. Or if we're just going for game, which, I mean, we don't really struggle all that much too, we can also just like double a monster's attack. So yeah, all 3 effects are extremely valuable, but the main one that we're typically going to be using is the draw 2 discard one, just because, you know, Dark Worlds like to draw and discard in order to actually activate their effects. Then for the other Exceeds, we're playing 2 rank 8s, being the Coach King Giantrainer. Admittedly, it is a little bit more difficult to make a Giantrainer with the lack of cards like Danger Bigfoot, but it's not impossible, especially because we are able to flood the field pretty consistently with cards like Reign-beaux and Grapha if we really want to. But this is mainly just in here as like a time card, as if you activate its effect and draw a monster, you burn your opponent for 800, and this deck does take a long time to play, so just having something like that in there is always going to be invaluable. And then for the final one, we have 1 Zombie Vampire, and I haven't touched on Droll at all in this video, but this is actually going to be like one of the more important pieces that we have in order to actually fight through it. As a Zombie Vampire, it mills 4, and then you get to special summon a monster that was milled, either from your 4 or your opponent's 4, so it gives you knowledge on your opponent's deck, and then it just allows you to fill your graveyard, hopefully with cards like Grapha and Reign-beaux, just to be able to bounce back whatever you summon, and just continue to combo off. But yeah, Zombie Vampire, really, really good in this deck. I really like it. And then that's it for the Exceeds. And then for the links, which make up a majority of the extra deck, we're going to be starting off with the link 2s, being the 1 Knightmare Phoenix, just because this deck does have a little bit of a problem going second. So something like Knightmare Phoenix or even Knightmare Cerberus to be able to pop our opponent's cards and just allow us to push a little bit more easily will always be greatly appreciated. Now we have Dharc, the Dark Charmer Gloomy, because there are so many dark monsters in the format right now. So much like Knightmare Phoenix, this card is also great at helping you go second, just to be able to take your opponent's monsters that they've probably used, whether it's like a Bestial or just in general like any Malice monster, or I don't remember which one specifically in the Raziel deck or Dharc, but we're just going to pretend that the Bestial monster is like the main things that we're going to be taking every time. But even so, you know, Dharc, fantastic at helping you go for game a lot more easily. We played the 1 Muckraker from the Underworld, as it allows us to discard cards to reborn a fiend monster from your graveyard. However, you are locked into fiends for the rest of the turn, so you have to be a little bit careful when using this one. But even so, it discards for effect, so you will be able to trigger your Dark World cards. And the fiend monsters on its own, especially thanks to like a bow being included, can just straight up win you the game in a lot of the situations. So it's not like it's like the biggest handicap or whatever. Then for the other link 2s, which we are still on, we're playing the IP Masquerena, which allows us to go into the SP Little Knight, which, you know, good cards are good, right? And then we're also playing the 1 Akashic Magician to be able to bounce back cards, namely Ceruli and Sillva. But there are certain situations where you want to bounce back other cards like Ken, or maybe even Gen if you give it to your opponent because you hard drew the Ken and you wanted to summon it. But yeah, Akashic Magician solid, and then Security Dragon for basically doing the exact same thing, but it just needs to be co-linked first. Then that's it for the link 2s. We don't play any link 3s, but for the link 4s, I'm still playing the ones I use as Skuldred. I just enjoy drawing so much, in case you couldn't tell. So just being able to draw 4 cards and then stack the bad ones at the bottom, and then not to mention this allows us to unclog our field a lot more easily, which is actually a problem that this deck somewhat faces pretty consistently, where you just have too many monsters in the field and you don't really know what to do with them, even with the myriad of like link monsters that we end up playing in the extra. But yeah, those draws, they do come in clutch sometimes. Then we're playing the 1 Knightmare Griffin just because it's a Link 4 Fiend that can floodgate our opponent out of the game. And then for the final Link monster, we're playing the, as seen previously, a Baoku, the Lightless Shadow. So this card, it's phenomenal. It's recently released, but its effects are all really good. As said earlier, as you either get a free reborn for any dark or light, and all your monsters are dark. So that basically means you can bring back whatever you want, or you get like a free quick effect pop during your turn and your opponent's turn. Now, I want to talk about like its standby phase effect pretty briefly, just because you are like in danger sometimes of just like not being able to resolve it properly. And what I mean by that is, say you only have like 2 cards left in your deck, but you have 3 to 4 different types of monsters. I believe, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that if you activate your Abow's effect to draw and you don't have enough cards in your deck, you will lose the game. So even if you are putting cards back, right, because you just cannot fulfill the condition to draw as many cards first. So you got to be a little bit more careful, and you can very easily just lose yourself the game. So don't do that. All right, if you don't have enough cards in deck and you have plenty of different types of attributes in your deck or in your graveyard, do not activate that effect because you will deck yourself out and you will lose the game. But yeah, outside of that, this card's phenomenal, especially as like an end board piece. And then for the final card in the extra, we're playing the 1 Grapha Dragon Overlord or Dark World, just to be able to use cards like Accession, and then its effect, you know, changing an opponent's normal spell, normal trap, or monster effect into your opponent discards a card is just greatly appreciated. So with that, that's the deck. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya!